Dear listeners, before we get started, drop a quick hi in the comments and let us know where you're tuning in from. Also, if you have any suggestions for us to make the channel better, please let us know. Now let's start with the story. My name is Ben, and I married Kathy a few months ago after dating her for the last 2 years. We just moved into the new place. Fresh paint, new lease, new jobs, new version of us. I was optimistic. Kathy and I had been married for 6 months, and tonight was our little welcome to stability housewarming party. We had chips. We had sangria. We had string lights and a Bluetooth speaker that refused to connect to anything but someone's rogue Spotify playlist titled Emo Core, 2004. It was all very adult. People were laughing. The house smelled like jalapeno poppers and scented candles, and I, fool that I am, was actually happy. Then came Linda. Now, Linda is Kathy's college friend, which is code for person who remembers her wild days and isn't afraid to narrate them like a TED Talk with full audiovisual effects. I didn't have a problem with her, per se, until I heard what I heard. I was refilling the drinks near the kitchen archway, the kind of spot you don't notice people standing in. And then I overheard Linda. Oh my God, remember that frat basement with the futon? The rotating futon. Kathy giggling like a sociopath. Which time? God, I think I had sex with, like, 100 guys in college. No exaggeration. Honestly, probably 115 if we count the guys after graduation and before Ben. Linda chimed in. You were unstoppable. You had a spreadsheet. Kathy spoke with her voice laced with mocking pride. Color-coded. Thank you very much. Gold stars for the repeat performances. Now, I'm not saying I choked on the ice cube in my mouth, but I did briefly question whether I could drown in sangria if I really committed. She kept going. I do miss those days sometimes, not gonna lie. But Ben's great. Like, stable great. Reliable. You know, like a Labrador, Linda said. Kathy laughing. Exactly. A loyal little husband dog. Let me pause here and say, I was right there. I was 5 feet from this conversation, holding a tray of hummus and emotionally imploding. 100 guys in college. 15 more in the time it takes to renew a driver's license. And I'm the Labrador. Oh joy. I always dreamed of being someone's emotionally supportive golden retriever. Should I wag my tail when she gets home? Fetch her slippers? Sit? Stay? Play dead? Which, coincidentally, is exactly what my libido did in that moment. I didn't say anything. Didn't make a scene. Just placed the hummus tray gently, delicately, on the nearest table like it was made of uranium, grabbed my jacket, and walked out of my own party like a background character in a Netflix drama titled This Is Not What I Signed Up For. I heard someone yell, Hey Ben, you good? Behind me. Yeah, I said. Just going to walk off the mental image of my wife earning varsity letters in sexual athletics. Kathy didn't notice I left. Not right away. She was too busy reminiscing about how she used to treat college like it came with a punch card, 10 hookups, and the 11th one's free. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, staring at the steering wheel like it personally betrayed me. So here I am, married, leased, employed, and apparently the emotional consolation prize after her tour de fornication. God bless. Time to go buy a dog collar. I didn't go back inside the house. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't even fake a smile and pretend I was just running out for ice. No, I walked straight out the door, down the block, around the corner, and straight to the one man I knew would be awake and legally obligated to hear my whining. Ron Jeremy. Not that Ron Jeremy. My Ron Jeremy is a 58-year-old divorce attorney who wears Crocs and Hawaiian shirts to court and once cross-examined a woman's poodle to make a point. He's also my friend. Sort of. If your friends openly bet money on the collapse of your marriage. It was 10:20 p.m. I knew he'd be pissed, but I was angrier. And as a married man, I've learned that being angry gives you a pass to make terrible decisions without planning ahead. Like marrying Kathy, or leasing a house with her name on the paperwork. I banged on his door like I was trying to collect rent from a ghost. After a few seconds of thuds and muffled cursing, the door creaked open. And there he was, Ron, in boxer shorts that read dynamite inside. Because why not? With a faded tank top and bed hair that looked like it had personally been through 3 divorces and a custody battle. He squinted at me, then sighed. So you found out. I blinked. What? You found out about Kathy. Hold on. Hold on. This man answered the door like I was a pizza delivery, and he'd been waiting for the disaster special. I narrowed my eyes. You knew? You knew all this time. He looked uncomfortable, which is rare for Ron. I once saw him threaten a judge with contempt for interrupting his lunch break. I met her right after she finished college. Briefly. Socially. With some horizontal activities. You slept with my wife? Technically not your wife at the time. Legally speaking, she was just a very enthusiastic civilian. I was ready to flip the tiny welcome mat off his porch. Why didn't you tell me? I did tell you. Remember? I said, Exact quote, "Stay away from Kathy. She's not your type." I stared at him. "You were thinking with the thing between your legs, and you told me," and I quote, "She's different, Ron. She gets me." And there it was. The flashback hit me like a sock full of regrets. He did warn me. I just assumed it was his usual Ron-esque cynicism. I didn't realize "not your type" was lawyer code for "has a spreadsheet of past partners, and your name's probably on tab 3. I exhaled dramatically, as one does when the world is crumbling and your wife's old college buddy just referred to her as unstoppable. Ron leaned on the doorframe, scratching his stomach with the nonchalance of a man watching someone else's car catch fire. "So, what did you find out?" I stared at him. "Let's just say she misses college. Apparently, sleeping with 100 guys builds a certain nostalgia, and she's only added 15 more since graduation. But it's okay, because I'm stable. I'm the Labrador husband." Ron winced. "Oof. Yeah, oof." He opened the door wider. "You want whiskey?" "I want a time machine." "But sure. Whiskey." I stepped inside. Because if I was going to start planning my exit from this marriage, I might as well do it with someone who already knew the sex spreadsheet's contents. So there I was, standing in Ron's living room in stunned silence, while he stood in front of me like some smug, boxers-clad prophet of doom. "You know you're screwed now, right?" I blinked at him. "Like legally. You didn't sign the prenup I practically stapled to your forehead. I gave you 3 copies. One was laminated." I just stared at the whiskey in my hand, as if the answers were hiding in the ice cubes. They weren't. Just my pride, frozen, cracked, and drowning in brown liquor. I mumbled, "Yeah, well, I was in love." "That's not a defense. That's how they get you." I laughed. One of those weird, sad little chuckles that sounds like it belongs in an asylum hallway. I can't go back to her, man. Not after hearing that. Not after seeing it so clearly in my head. And then it hit me. The images. The memories. Every time I'd been between Kathy's legs, thinking I was pleasing my goddess of love and passion, nope. Now it just felt like I'd spent the better part of our marriage licking the floor of the men's bathroom at the local Hooters. The sticky part, near the urinal, with the mysterious puddle. I gagged. And then it happened. I turned, leaned over, and unloaded all my emotional trauma and about half a bottle of sangria onto Ron's vintage rug. It was Paisley, I think. Not that you could tell anymore. He didn't flinch, didn't even blink, just looked down at the puddle of regret and said, "I'll add that to the bill." I wiped my mouth with the sleeve of my button-down. The same shirt I wore when I proposed. How poetic, and just sighed, defeated. Then I pulled out my wallet and handed him my credit card like a man who knew he'd lost custody of his dignity. He slid it into a little portable reader that I swear he keeps bedside, like an emotional ambulance chaser. "Look, you're a mess. But I'm a kind mess. Here." He pulled out some cash, handed me a couple of 20s and a business card for a local motel called Moonlight Retreat, which sounded less like a place to sleep and more like a front for a meth commune. But I wasn't in a position to be picky. Ron patted my shoulder. "Go. Sleep. Try not to marry any more college superstars, okay?" So I went. I checked into Moonlight Retreat, room 16B, which smelled like expired air freshener and decisions made under the influence of tequila. I didn't sleep. I just laid there, staring at the popcorn ceiling, listening to the muffled sound of what I hoped was a television next door, and trying desperately not to think about Kathy. But of course I did. About all the things she used to whisper to me when we made love, things I thought were just for me. Special. Intimate. Now they felt like script lines. Polished. Recycled. Possibly distributed in PDF format during orientation week. I turned over, face down, and groaned into the pillow. How the hell did I end up here? Oh right, because I didn't listen to the man in dynamite boxers. God help me. Kathy tried calling me. A lot. Somewhere between desperate and annoying. But I didn't answer. Not once. I kept my phone off like it was radioactive, which felt appropriate, considering that every time her name popped up, I felt like I was being exposed to emotional Chernobyl. I knew what she'd say. It was just a joke, or "you're overreacting," or my personal favorite, "but we're happy now." Sure, Kathy. And arsenic is technically organic. So, the next morning, I didn't go home. I didn't go anywhere near home. Instead, I went straight to Ron's office, which, for a divorce attorney, is decorated like a cross between a sports bar and a crime scene. He was already there, nursing a mug that said world's #1 divorce lawyer, which was probably true in 6 counties. Well, if it isn't Sir Licks-a-Lot. "Good morning to you, too." I dropped into the chair across from him, still wearing the same clothes as last night. Pretty sure I smelled like regret and a Motel 6 pillow. "So, you want to serve her?" I nodded. "Serve her hard. I want legal paperwork delivered with the same energy she used to ruin my immune system." He cracked his knuckles. "Now you're speaking my language." We went over the basics. Ron printed some documents. I signed like a man approving a missile launch. We called a process server named Randy, who sounded entirely too cheerful about ruining someone's Tuesday. After that, I needed reinforcements. Not legal, emotional. So, like an idiot, I went to my mom's. Bad idea. The second she opened the door, she looked like she was halfway through an exorcism. Benjamin James, where have you been? Kathy has called me 6 times. She's crying. Ah yes, crying. The last refuge of the accused. She doesn't know where you are. I don't know where you are. Are you cheating on her? I blinked. Wait, I'm the one cheating. She crossed her arms. I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying she sounded heartbroken. Said you disappeared after the party. Well, maybe she should have thought of that before joking about her body count like she was reading off baseball stats. That made her pause. What? So I told her. Everything. The 100 guys. The 15 post-college bonus rounds. The Labrador husband title delivered with a side of sangria. She didn't believe me. Not at first. You must have misunderstood. Kathy's not like that. Oh no, mother. I heard every syllable. I could transcribe it for court. Or print it on a throw pillow. She looked stricken, shaking her head like I'd told her Kathy moonlighted as a blackjack dealer in Reno. Ben, you're going to break your marriage over something you overheard at a party? No. I'm going to break my marriage over the fact that I'm married to a woman who thinks her greatest hits collection is appropriate party conversation. People have pasts, Ben. You're being childish. Childish. Right. Because clearly I'm the issue here, not the woman who needs a scroll to list her previous collaborators. I stood up. I'm filing for divorce. I didn't come here for permission. I came here to let you know before Kathy tries to spin it like I joined a cult or something. She looked furious, like I'd just slapped Jesus himself. I walked out. Calm. Hollow. Like a man who'd finally accepted he was the only one in his marriage who thought it was a marriage. I waited until I knew Kathy would be at work. Then I went back to the house. The silence hit me as soon as I walked in. No music. No phone buzzing. No Kathy. Just me, and this beautiful, newly leased prison of poor choices. I sat down on the couch, stared at the wall, and whispered, Labrador, what a boatload of crap. After sitting in our perfectly staged living room, decorated like a page out of Modern Homeowners who lie to themselves monthly, I decided to do the adult thing. I called Kevin. Yes, that Kevin. Kathy's father. My father-in-law. The man who gave a speech at our wedding about virtue, legacy, and how he always knew his daughter would find a man of strong values. I thought he was quoting scripture. Turns out, the man was probably just praying I had a high tolerance for nightmares. He picked up on the third ring, like he knew this call was coming. Hello, Ben. I didn't even say hello. Just jumped in. I heard what Kathy said at the party. About her, extracurriculars. He didn't laugh. Didn't gasp. Didn't even say, what are you talking about? Yeah, that's it. Yeah, like I just told him it might rain next week. I blinked into the phone. Wait, you're not surprised? I thought you knew. You what? Yeah, I thought you were just, I don't know, one of those kinky modern guys. Into that sort of thing. There was a long pause while my soul left my body and stood quietly in the corner shaking its head. You thought I was into it. Well, I asked you. Remember? Over beer? That time during the football game? I said, and I quote, I'm very surprised to know that men like you exist. And now I remembered. I had laughed like an idiot and said something like, haha, what do you mean? And he'd just smiled and taken a long sip of beer like a man watching someone walk into a minefield and deciding not to interrupt. I took a deep breath. Kevin, if you knew, why didn't you tell me? Warn me. Because, son, when a man's that determined to jump into a wood chipper, you don't yank him out. You just hope he does it head first. I rubbed my face. The signs were everywhere. Ron warned me. And now even Kevin, my father-in-law, was basically admitting I'd married a walking cautionary tale. I sighed. Well, I'm having her served Tuesday. There was a pause. Ben, I know this sounds harsh. Oh boy, whenever someone starts like that, brace yourself. She's your wife. Your problem. Please, keep me out of this mess. I blinked. She's your daughter. Exactly. And I am a church-going man, Ben. You know my community. If they find out she's my daughter, they'll excommunicate me. I couldn't even respond. He wasn't joking. Kevin, serious now. I'm willing to pay you to make sure she stays in your house. But please, for the love of God and all things holy, don't let her come back here. Oh wow. My father-in-law was offering me money to keep his own child out of his life. This wasn't a marriage anymore. This was a federally declared disaster zone. I hung up. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't yell. Just pressed the red button and stared at my phone for a solid minute, like it had personally betrayed me too. I'd been warned by my father-in-law. I'd even been warned by the man with dynamite on his underwear. And still, I married her. Congratulations, Ben. You played yourself. Kathy wouldn't stop calling me. Her name popped up so many times on my phone, I started to wonder if my screen was stuck in some kind of purgatory loop. Then the mutual friends started calling. Mutual in the sense that they probably high-fived Kathy while I was busy being the loyal Labrador back home. Did I answer? Nope, not a chance. I was too busy sinking deeper into what I now call the Ben spiral, a psychological state somewhere between denial, rage, and mild acid reflux. That afternoon, I made the worst decision since I do. I opened the closet in our guest room, Kathy's unofficial shrine to herself. It was full of old keepsakes, photo albums, and scrapbooks labeled things like Girls Gone Abroad and Sorority, Not Sorry. I flipped through some pages, mostly old college photos. Kathy doing keg stands, Kathy dressed as a sexy nun, Kathy surrounded by frat boys with the kind of expressions usually reserved for lottery winners and dogs at the beach. Then I found it. A box, tucked beneath an old pile of scarves and a yoga mat that still had the tag on it. It was pink, glittery, and hand-labeled with a piece of masking tape that said, Memories. I thought, oh cute, maybe baby pictures, or graduation clips. Nope, tapes. Dozens of them. About 45, I'd guess. VHS and DVD. Some labeled with names like Marcus Second Time, Vegas, or Red Couch Mystery Man. I wish I was joking. I picked one at random, because self-harm is a theme now, and popped it into the ancient DVD player we keep in the den, usually reserved for watching Love Actually during Christmas. What played on screen was, let's just say, not safe for work. Or society. Kathy, in high definition, doing things I didn't even know were physically possible, with a man who looked like he owned a motorcycle and definitely didn't believe in pants. It wasn't just a sex tape. It was a performance. Music, lighting, a title screen. Hell, there were transitions. The woman made a portfolio. She wasn't just fooling around. She was archiving. 45 tapes. 80 different men. And I was the one who got the privilege of being the one she settled down with. I sat in stunned silence for about 20 minutes before grabbing the whole box, stuffing it in a duffel bag, and marching it to the only man equipped to handle this. Ron Jeremy, the lawyer, not the other one. Though honestly, the lines were starting to blur. I dropped the bag on his office desk like it was nuclear waste. He opened it, peeked inside, blinked. Jesus Christ, Ben, what the hell am I looking at? I don't even know anymore, man. Memories, apparently. He pulled out one DVD and read the label aloud. Ethan and the Swing Set. Okay. I stared at him, exhausted. I watched one tape. I think I need therapy. Or fire. Maybe both. Ron, professional that he is, held up a hand. Leave them with me. I'll handle this. I raised an eyebrow. You're going to personally review my wife's greatest hits. For forensic purposes, Ben, I need to catalog the contents. In case this becomes part of the divorce proceedings. Alone. Privately. Without interruption. I narrowed my eyes. You're enjoying this a little too much. Ben, I've seen worse. Well, maybe not worse, but definitely weirder. Let me do my job. So I left them with him. Against my better judgment. Because apparently this is what my life has come to. Dropping off my soon-to-be ex-wife's amateur adult film collection with a man in a Who's Your Daddy mug. Walking out of his office, I muttered to myself, just another normal Tuesday. God help me. Some men say serving divorce papers is cold. Heartless. Unnecessary drama. I say, it's $100 well spent if you can deliver it with flair. Which is why I called up Randy, our process server, and slid him an extra Benjamin to do more than just drop papers into Kathy's confused little hands. I wanted delivery with pizzazz. I wanted performance art. I told Randy, tell her she's being served for hiding the fact that she racked up a 3-digit body count before marrying me. Loud enough for at least 5 coworkers to hear. Randy chuckled and said, classy. I like it. And he did it. The man should win a Tony. I didn't see it, obviously. I'm not deranged enough to show up at her office. But the text started about 15 minutes after the papers landed. First was the how could you? Then, you embarrassed me at work. Then, you're dead to me. And my personal favorite. I will legally, spiritually, and physically end you. There were a few that were so unhinged I'm pretty sure she was either crying or possessed while typing them. One message was just the word traitor, followed by 8 stab emojis and a gif of a burning house. Charming. I didn't respond. Not a word. Radio silence. Then she tried calling. Again and again. Block number, voicemails, the works. Nothing from me. So, naturally, she did what every emotionally stable, mature adult would do. She called my lawyer. Ron called me after. So your ex-wife called. Ex-wife in process. I corrected. Right? Well, she wanted a meeting. Said she'd explain everything. I laughed. Let me guess. She's going to tell you the 110 guys were a misunderstanding. It meant nothing? No. She skipped the gaslighting and went straight to threats. Said she's going to sue you for slander. Oh, for accurately repeating her own public sex monologue at a party. I said, apparently yes. Also, and I quote, if I see Ben, I will break his neck. She used the F word with neck. I laughed, lovely. She's really leaning into that whole wounded dove turned rabid hawk vibe. Don't worry, I told her firmly. My client is not looking for reconciliation. He wants a divorce. Then I told her to find herself a lawyer. That's why I pay you, Ron. Ron, with smug, said, also, the tapes are very well labeled. You weren't kidding. It's like a Criterion collection. Please stop talking. I responded. So now Kathy's out there, seething, publicly humiliated, and, I assume, Googling how to kill your husband and get away with it. Meanwhile, I'm back at home with a half-eaten burrito, watching reruns of Judge Judy, and wondering how many more landmines I'm going to step on before this whole thing is officially over. Honestly, probably all of them. But hey, at least I'm not the guy who got served at work with a verbal disclaimer about being the proud owner of a 3-digit sexual resume. I call that a win. And then she found her. Kathy got herself a lawyer. Ashlyn Gear, a no-nonsense, pantsuit-wearing, courtroom bulldozer of a woman whose reputation for legal bloodshed was only rivaled by her apparent hatred of men named Ben. When I told Ron, his reaction was unsettling. He smiled. That kind of slow, knowing smile that makes you want to call animal control just to be safe. Why are you smiling? Ron still grinning. We have history. I blinked. What kind of history? Ron smiled and said, the kind you don't ask about if you want to sleep at night. I didn't ask. I value sleep and plausible deniability. So now here we are, in court, live from Divorceapalooza 2025. Kathy showed up with Ashlyn, who looked like she'd come from a photo shoot titled Lawyer of Your Nightmares. Black blazer, no jewelry, steel gaze, voice like cold coffee, and unpaid taxes. She didn't waste time. Your Honor, my client has been publicly slandered by her husband. I muttered under my breath. Ashlyn continued, who weaponized deeply personal history to humiliate her at work, causing reputational damage. Furthermore, this man has no legitimate grounds for divorce. We request the court to mandate marriage counseling before considering dissolution. Marriage counseling. That's right. This woman wanted me to sit in a room with Kathy and a licensed professional and talk about our feelings. I glanced at Ron, fully expecting him to lose it. But no, he stood, calm, cool, that same unnerving grin still on his face. Your Honor, he said, with the cheery tone of someone about to perform surgery without anesthesia, my client and Mrs. Keller, formerly Kathy Summers, though we've been referring to her internally as Exhibit A, have fundamental ideological differences, not just political or religious. No, Your Honor, we're talking lifestyle divergence of the cosmic variety. Ashlyn narrowed her eyes. Kathy crossed her arms. Ron smiling. Again, not nicely. My client believed he married a woman who shared his values. Instead, he married someone who, how do I put this gently, has a highlight reel. There was a murmur in the courtroom. Even the stenographer twitched. Ron turned to the judge. We believe counseling is a waste of court time, taxpayer money, and possibly oxygen. But, if I may, perhaps the court would allow me to cross-examine Mrs. Keller, just to clarify the depth of the incompatibility. Ashlyn stood up. Your Honor, this is not a trial. This is a preliminary hearing. Ron raising a finger. Yes, but given the extraordinary circumstances, and the fact that my client recently discovered a treasure trove of memorabilia titled Memories, featuring no fewer than 80, shall we say, guest stars, we believe a brief inquiry would help illustrate our point. I sunk into my seat. The judge raised a brow. Kathy looked like she was preparing to explode into glitter and fire. Ashlyn glared at Ron like she was remembering whatever history they had, and regretting it deeply. Judge sighed. I'll allow it briefly. Ron turned toward Kathy, cracked his neck, and smiled like a man stepping up to a piñata full of legal gold. And I thought, this isn't a divorce. This is revenge theater in a courtroom. And I had front row seats. Let me tell you something about sitting in a courtroom while your lawyer cross-examines your soon-to-be ex-wife about her hobby-level enthusiasm for sex. It's like watching your own funeral, but someone keeps hitting rewind. So Ron stood there, looking like a man who skipped breakfast just to eat someone alive in front of a judge, and smiled at Kathy. Ron asked, Mrs. Keller, tell the court, what does sex mean to you? Kathy sat up straight, like she'd rehearsed this in front of a mirror with scented candles. It's the ultimate expression of love and connection. Kathy responded. Oh boy, that line. I rolled my eyes so hard I briefly saw my brain. Ron now casually savage. Ultimate expression of love and connection. Is it your testimony, then, that one can love and connect with a new man, every 2 days and still call it ultimate? Kathy blinked, hesitated, probably trying to figure out if math is subjective. Ron pressing on, because, Mrs. Keller, love and connection is not a USB dongle. It does not simply plug into whatever laptop is available and start syncing files. The courtroom chuckled. Even the bailiff smirked. I actually saw the judge suppress a cough that might have been laughter or a mild stroke. Kathy's eyes narrowed. I never cheated on Ben. I was an honest wife. And there it was. The line she'd been dying to say. The banner she wanted to wave. Technically faithful. Ron spinning toward her. Yes. You didn't cheat on him. But tell me, how long before you would have? Ashlyn jumped up faster than a preacher near a lightning bolt. Objection, Your Honor. Hypothetical. He's asking her to predict future behavior. Mr. Jeremy, let's not speculate. Stay within the facts, the judge said. Ron didn't miss a beat. Just gave that same courtroom shark smile. Absolutely, Your Honor. Mrs. Keller stated she never cheated on Ben. That is a very specific claim. Then he turned back to Kathy and adjusted his tie, which I'm now convinced is only worn to restrain his smirk. Ron then turned to Kathy. You got engaged to Ben in 2023, correct? Kathy said, yes. And while engaged, faithful fiancé that you were, did you ever sleep with anyone else? She froze. If hesitation had a facial expression, Kathy was the poster child. Then Ron pulled out a disc, like a magician revealing a cursed artifact. Your Honor, this is Exhibit 7C, sourced from the memories box found at the marital residence. On this disc, timestamped between May and August of 2023, during her engagement, Mrs. Keller can be seen having relations with not one, not two, but 5 different men. The courtroom went quiet, like graveyard quiet. Even Ashlyn blinked like someone just showed her a PowerPoint titled, Your client is a walking red flag. Ron turned to the judge. So no, Your Honor. She didn't cheat on her husband, but she did cheat on her fiancé. She has a history, a clear, continuous, enthusiastically recorded pattern. I stared at the back of Kathy's head like it had betrayed me one final time. She looked down at the table, and I thought to myself, sure, she never cheated technically. And technically, jumping out of a plane with no parachute is just falling, with style. But thanks to Ron and his high-definition legal beatdown, everyone in that courtroom now knew exactly what kind of love and connection I'd been married to. And let me tell you, it didn't feel very ultimate. If sex is the ultimate form of love, Ron said, staring Kathy down with the intensity of a man who enjoyed courtroom carnage more than most people enjoy vacations. And you've shown that your love can change direction, frequently, creatively, and in some cases, while wearing a GoPro. What exactly stops you from spreading that love again now that you're married? Kathy didn't answer. Not really. She did what she always does when the truth corners her. Looked down, blinked like she just got dust in her eye, and said in a soft voice, I just wanted to turn a new leaf. I wanted to live well. Settle down. Be happy. Which is courtroom code for, I thought he'd never find the tapes. And because judges are, at the end of the day, human, and occasionally suckers for a sob story, he ordered mandatory counseling. Yes, court-ordered marital therapy. Because nothing says healthy new beginning like being locked in a room with the woman who emotionally catfished you with a wedding dress and a sex tape archive. The sessions were predictably awful. Session 1, Kathy cried. I stared at the floor. The counselor suggested we try eye contact as a healing exercise. I suggested he try skydiving without a parachute. Session 2, Kathy said I humiliated her publicly. I told her public seems to be her preferred setting. The counselor asked me to reframe that comment. I said, okay, she's community property. Not well received. But it was session 3 that really took the crown. I arrived early. Not out of enthusiasm, pure self-preservation. I liked being in the room before Kathy. Gave me time to prep mentally and hide all sharp objects. Except this time, she beat me there. The counselor's door was slightly ajar, and from inside I heard muffled sounds. Not just voices. Not crying. Nope. Let's call it motivated grunting. I inched closer, then peeked in. There she was, Kathy, naked from the waist down, straddling the counselor, who was also halfway through forgetting what a belt was. His diploma on the wall was crooked. So was my trust in humanity. I stared, blinking, processing. Then, calmly, I pulled out my phone and hit record. Let me tell you, there's something deeply surreal about filming your wife cheating on you with the court-appointed therapist tasked with saving your marriage. It's like watching a priest snort coke off a Bible. Wrong in so many dimensions it might cause a tear in space-time. After about 30 seconds of solid footage, I walked in like I was inspecting a health violation. Hey guys, don't mind me. Just wanted to make sure we were all committed to the healing process. They scrambled like roaches under a floodlight. Kathy practically fell off the couch. The counselor grabbed for his pants like they were trying to escape. Kathy panicked. Ben, this isn't what it looks like. Me, still filming. Oh good. Because what it looks like is my legally bound wife hooking up with the counselor in a room I technically helped pay for. Counselor now fumbling. Mr. Keller, please, this is highly unprofessional. Me. Tell that to the judge. Then I leaned in. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to send your report to the judge. You're going to include what happened here. Or I send this footage to the state board, your wife, your church, and Yelp. I will ruin your star rating so fast people will think you're a mattress store in a sewer. He looked pale, like someone who just realized they'd accidentally stepped in career quicksand. I walked out, still recording, and called Ron. Hey Ron, I've got something you're going to want to see. Ron, instantly intrigued. Did you find another tape? Nope. I found Kathy riding the counselor like a therapy pony. Got the footage. Sending it now. 5 minutes later, Ron filed a motion to terminate the court-ordered counseling. The same day, because once again, Kathy had proven that when it came to love and connection, she really was a hands-on learner. And I was done playing husband. Now I was just the guy filming the sequel to How I Divorced Your Mother. So the judge got the counselor's final report. It was about as optimistic as a funeral program. No hope for reconciliation. Yeah, you think. Then Ron, because Ron is Ron, attached the video. The one where Kathy and the marriage counselor decided to explore intimacy breakthroughs, using each other's bodies and my future as a doormat. Why? Because I'm a vengeful bastard. Okay, that's a lie. I'm a very vengeful bastard. The fallout was satisfying. The counselor? License, revoked. Practice? Shut down. Website? Gone. Yelp page? Buried under 1-star reviews and a gif of a dumpster fire. And me? Finally divorced. Free. Single. Spiritually scrubbed clean with legal bleach and a court order. I never saw Kathy again after the hearing. No texts. No calls. No heartfelt letters filled with regret and glitter glue. She vanished like a magician's assistant. Only less magical and way more emotionally expensive. I thought it was over. And then I went to Ron's office one last time. Just to square the bill. Because say what you want about the man, his new mug says, divorce. It's cheaper than therapy, but he earned every penny. I walked in, ready to hand over the check, when I noticed something on his desk. The tapes. Yep. The memories box. Still there. Open. A few discs spread out like he was curating an exhibit titled Regret on Blu-ray. You still have those? Ron now visibly hesitant. Yeah. Legal research. He didn't even blink when he said it. Just stared at me with the same deadpan calm of a man who's definitely watched a few clips for science. I just shrugged. Whatever. Honestly, I didn't care anymore. Let them be studied by legal scholars or launched into the sun. I was out. Later that evening, I was halfway through a cold beer and a reheated burrito, celebrating singlehood like a man with just enough self-respect left, when the phone rang. It was Kevin. Ah yes, my ex-father-in-law. The man who once offered me money not to send his daughter back to his house. He skipped hello. Kevin started shouting. You bastard. I told you not to send her here. Apparently, Kathy had returned to her ancestral homeland. His sofa. She's here. Crying. Eating my food. Watching trashy reality TV and telling my wife I ruined her marriage. I took a long sip of beer, then calmly said, good luck with that. You brought her in this world. Now pay for your sins. And I hung up. No explanation. No sympathy. Just silence. Because finally, after everything, the jokes, the tapes, the threats, the counseling, the counselor, there was peace. Not justice. Not closure. Not emotional healing. But silence. And for me, that was more than enough. It's been 6 months since the divorce. I live alone now. Well, not alone exactly. I adopted 5 German Shepherds. 5. Because let's be honest, 5 is better than 2. Especially if the last 2 were Kathy's legs every time a new man walked by in college. Their names? Ranger, Whiskey, Diesel, Freud, and Bark Twain. They don't lie. They don't cheat. They don't tell me sex is the ultimate expression of love, while also making a found footage documentary about it. They just bark at squirrels and sit next to me when I eat cold lasagna straight out of the pan at 2 a.m. They're perfect. Now, I know what you're thinking. Ben, this is a tragic arc. You should be healing. Learning to trust again. Dating maybe? Hell no. Humanity has failed me. Society is dead to me. And most of all, I have one sworn enemy. Lost Relation Chronicles. Yes, that cursed YouTube channel. The one that keeps casting my life like a rejected soap opera and marrying me off to Kathy in every damn parallel universe. How is it always her? She has 110 exes. I have one therapist and a trauma disorder. They gave me no warning. No choice. just shoved me into another nightmare each season like I was some kind of legally binding piñata. One time they even gave me hope. And then BM, Kathy again, popping out like a haunted jack-in-the-box with a prenup and a sex tape. So now, I'm suing. That's right. I've asked Ron Jeremy to represent me. Ron laughed at me when I told him, "Ben, are you seriously trying to sue a YouTube channel for fictional emotional damage?" I responded, "I have exhibits, subscriber comments, and thumbnail screenshots, and 76 episodes of hell." He nodded. So while Ron drafts up whatever insane legal document this requires, I sit on my porch, surrounded by my dogs, sipping cheap whiskey like a retired war veteran. Sometimes I stare into the distance. Sometimes I mutter, "Never again." And sometimes, just sometimes, I log into YouTube. The channel has uploaded again. If that is a Ben and Kathy saga, I will report it for violence. Because that's exactly what it is. To my soul, to my peace, and to every poor idiot who still believes love is just one wedding away from happiness. Not me. I have dogs now. And 5 is better than 2. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.